Hey everyone, this is Fabio and welcome back to a new video. As you can notice, this is not my room. I'm not home, in fact. I'm currently in Pavia. I'm doing a 1 month residency here. Nevertheless, I wanted to do this video anyways because I saw Fem Troopers 1 and it's kind of reminded me, oh yeah, I want to do that as well. Because it's one of those videos that I enjoy doing no matter what, even though, yes, I'm not as active on YouTube as I used to be. But there are at least these two videos I love doing throughout the years. One, it's like the Game of the Year at the end, and the gaming plan at the beginning of the new year. The whole idea of having a plan, meaning I decided which games I'm going to play throughout the years in advance, may seem a bit strange for some, but I have to say I've been applying this for the past couple of years and has been working very well for me. So I'm definitely going to repeat it for 2024 for sure. I wrote my plan back by the mid to late December. Nevertheless, there is a big issue with this plan. Two, actually. One, we're going to discuss it now. The other, we're going to discuss it at the end of the video, so stay tuned. Issue number one is the fact that my gaming plans usually do not include new releases. Simply for convenience sake, let's say it this way. I know there's going to be several new releases this year, and quite a lot, to be frank. But I would argue that probably there's going to be only two, which are going to be must buy for me. And one, it's Granblue Fantasy, since that's going to be released after being in development for, gosh, I don't know, 50 years. And then, of course, I believe it's going to be this year the release of the new Trails games, because, of course, I need to buy and play the new Trails games. But other than those, I don't think there are others that I'm particularly interested, especially in terms of getting it, if not day one, very close by, or potentially playing and changing my plan as a consequence. These are the only two. As I said, there is another issue, but we're going to talk it much later. Considering how well 2023 went for me in terms of the sheer number of games I've played, which for some people it's nothing. The idea of playing 16 games in a year is like bare minimum, but for me it was quite impressive. Usually I'm very busy, I don't have much time to play video games, and thinking about the number of games I played, I was very proud of myself as a gamer. And also by the fact that I try to vary my games helped this process a lot and made it more fun and variable, which is good, I think, once you need to plan for the new year. So I decided to be ambitious again this year, and I wrote down 15 games for 2024. Now, I know I will not be able to play all of them. Nevertheless, I decided to write them regardless. As I said at the beginning of the video, I'm currently not at home, and that means that I don't have any game or system on me. So this is already delaying the beginning of the gaming year. So there's that. Technically, however, the first game I have... Oh, this is it's very comfortable. The first game that I wrote down that I would like to play is Persona 5 Tactica on Nintendo Switch. Now, I bought this day one, but back then I was... First of all, I remember I was not even at home, and then I was playing something else, and I said, well, I just play it later. There's the other big issue I want to talk about, but we'll talk about later. So let's go with like in technically this is going to be the first game I will play in 2024. I'm all about it. I love Persona, loved Persona 5, already played Persona 5 Strikers, so tactical is the natural progression there, even though I heard, I don't want to say mixed opinion about it, but just the fact that this they could have done more with this, and for what I saw, heard, and read, I agree. But we'll see. I'm sure I'm gonna like it. It's Persona. It's a strategy Persona game. Of course, I'm gonna like it. Next, we have a new entry in the collection, something that has caught my attention in the, let's say, the final months of 2023. A completely new series, something that I have never experienced before, and that is the Darksiders series. I've decided to give this franchise a shot, and for whatever reason, well, it's the first one I found. I will start with Darksiders 3 on PS4. I saw a video about it and it looks like it's totally up my alley. It's like a third person action game with a cool setting. I like the art style, the combat, and all of that. So, yeah, I'm all for it. It's good to try something new. And if I like it, I have an entire series waiting for me because I'm pretty sure I can find all games for very cheap, and sounds good to me. Next, I'm going to move to the PS3 and play a game that I've been waiting to play this for a long time, and that is Alpha Protocol. This looks like basically it's famous as its tagline is like the espionage RPG, and it looks like a sort of forgotten gem on the PS3, as it plays kind of like Mass Effect in both like combat and dialogue options, etc. But within like the world of espionage, it's sort of like Mission Impossible meets Mass Effect, which sounds amazing saying it out loud. I remember that I tried this game a little bit with my best friend just out of curiosity, and we were both like, oh man, this looks so cool. Like the next day he bought it on Steam, and I said, no, I need to play this game sooner rather than later. And one thing led to another. It's on my list, and it will be played for sure because I really enjoyed what I played of it. It looks super cool. The Alpha Protocol, it's the third game that I'm planning to play in 2024. Next, we have the first Resident Evil game of the year. Of course, I have to have some of them. And we're going to start with Revelations 2. Played Revelation 1 in 2023. Really enjoyed it. I got high expectations for 2 for a series of reasons. It's good they have an entire game focused on Claire Redfield as the main character. The monsters, creatures, and the virus, they all look very intriguing. And I'm all for this like action, more modern, let's say, Resident Evil games. As I mentioned in my Game of the Year list, this is my style of Resident Evil by far. So we're going to start with this one. And we have others for the year, but we'll see. Number 5, we have a big RPG, something again I should have played earlier but didn't have the time nor the occasion, and it's Octopath Traveler 2 on the Switch. I played a good chunk of Octopath Traveler 1. I haven't finished it completely, so I'm very, very curious to see what 2 has to offer. The first Octopath, it's one of those games that eventually would like to go back to it and finish it 100%, but as you can see, like I'll play 2 first and see like if I like it more, because I was really impressed by Octopath Traveler. I really enjoyed it. And yes, it was very grindy, but it's like most Square Enix games are very grindy, so that doesn't really scare me. It depends how the grinding is managed. That's what can make the difference to me, at least. For example, when I played Dragon Quest XI, I loved the game. I spent like 70 hours or something on the main story. Then there is the whole post-credit part of the game, which is just as long, but you also have to spend even more time grinding. And well, that annoyed me and I kind of dropped it. Also because I didn't like the direction they went for the story in the post-credit part, but that's just me. So again, I don't mind the grinding. It just depends how you handle it. Because again, yeah, Octopath can be quite heavy on the grind. But again, I love the concept. I love the combat system of the first Octopath. And the music in the first game was phenomenal. And if it's anything like that in the sequel, I'm in for a treat. I'm very, very hyped about Octopath 2. Next, we'll move back to the PS4. And finally, we're going to play Star Ocean: The Divine Force. I'm really looking forward to this game because I played years ago the first two Star Ocean games, but they're remakes on the PSP. So, First Departure and Second Evolution. I really enjoyed both of them. However, I'm very curious to see if Star Ocean will follow the same trend that worked for me with the Tales game. Meaning, to me, Tales games are far better. Like, the more modern they are, the better they are, basically. I cannot stand old school Tales game, basically the 2D ones. I absolutely hate them. To me, they're basically unplayable. And Star Ocean worked a little better, plus the science fantasy setting helped, made it more interesting and a bit different from old school Tales. But I'm curious to see if having the third dimension there as well would improve my enjoyment of the game even more, and I think it will. Plus, I heard a lot of good comments on, say, the combat system, the story, and everything about the Divine Force. So I'm very curious to get back into Star Ocean because I have a couple of games that I still need to play, so plenty actually, but I own all of them. So I hope this will give me the motivation to get back into this series and progressively play it in its entirety because I've always been very curious about the Star Ocean games and I've never really had the chance of playing them. And the release of the new game, which was completely out of nowhere when it was announced, I never expected a new Star Ocean after the disaster of the previous release on the PS4. I was like, oh, I'm all for it. And hopefully it will allow me to keep playing them throughout the years. I'm not going to play all of them in one go, but progressively. Next, we're moving into the sort of palate cleanser. After two big RPGs, we need something different, and what's better than a good first-person shooter? Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, I think that's the title, still on PS4. 2023 was the year of the Old Blood for me. That game was amazing, one of my favorite first-person shooters ever. My current favorite Wolfenstein game. I'm curious to see if Wolfenstein 2 will do better. Most likely, being a direct sequel to The New Order, might have a bit more emphasis on the story. We'll see. Very curious because these, say, PS3, PS4 Wolfenstein games have been excellent so far. I'm sure this will continue the positive trend, and 100% I'm going to have a blast with it. I'm just curious to see if I'm going to like it more or less than The Old Blood, which I cannot stress how much I like that game. Following Wolfenstein 2, we're going to move back into the Switch, because as you can see, this year is going to be primarily Switch and PS4, of course. But you also have some things here and there. On the Switch, we're going to play Bayonetta, the first one, for the simple reason that it's the only Bayonetta game I still need to play. I enjoyed both 2 and 3 immensely, so I cannot wait to complete the set and play the first one. As simple as that. It's like, no, I need to play it. It's been too long. Also, this was a present, so I must play it. But it's not just a sense of duty. I honestly really want to play because I'm a huge fan of the series. Following Bayonetta, we're going to move back into Resident Evil, the second of the year. And again, I cannot believe that I haven't played this already, but I'm kind of keeping it almost as for last. We got Resident Evil 2 Remake. I know, I haven't played it yet. But I mean, I got it. It's not going anywhere. It's one of those sacred games in a way. Like Resident Evil 2, it's so important for so many of us Resident Evil fans. Even though it's not my favorite, it's kind of the game that made me fell in love with the series, even more than one. Like I loved the original on PS1, but the sequel was so much better. Like I think most of us will agree there. Even though, as I said, like I loved the Resident Evil one, but the second one was much better, and I'm super curious to see what they did with the remake, considering that according to people who played it, like they spent much more effort and resources on this remake rather than Resident Evil 3 remake, even though I love Resident Evil 3 and 3 remake. That's my personal favorite. But I'm curious to see if I'll enjoy, most likely yes, 2 remake just as much as I couldn't stop playing Resident Evil 3 remake. So very, very high expectations out of this one, but for good reasons. I mean, it's a big remake of one of the biggest games for the PS1 generation. That's the best combination possible for me. The 10th game of the year, it's going to be Tales of Xillia 2. So we're going to move back to the PS3. I played and loved the first Xillia game, I think a couple of years ago. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 2022 when I played it. Really enjoyed it. Then that legend named Leo the Funny Nerd sent me Xillia 2 for Christmas, I believe. And I cannot wait to play it because I loved the first game. Up until I played Arise, it was my favorite in the series, but then obviously nothing can top Arise. But I'm very curious to see how they will continue the story because Tales games are usually very anthology kind of story in that sense. They're not sequel to each other. It's not, for the most part at least. Each game, it's its own story, universe, characters, etc. So this is one of the rare occasions where you have a continuation. So I'm very curious. I know about it a little bit. I just need to play it, experience it. I'm sure I'm going to like it, but we'll see how much. I'm very curious. I'm a big fan of the Tales series. So as I said, I'm sure I'm going to love it. And almost for certain, it will not surpass Tales of Arise as my favorite. That's sorry, Xillia 2, but there are no chances. But I say, like, I'm sure I'm gonna like it. Next, back to the Switch we go, and back to the palette cleanser we go with Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun. Now, in 2023, I played Shoot Up Blood and Teeth. I don't know why I said it like that, but just maybe that was my impression of Orc. Obviously, it didn't work, but I was a bit disappointed by the game. Like I like the concept, I love the art style and the humor, but gameplay-wise, it was way too repetitive. I'm not much into those arcadey Metal Slug kind of games anymore, I guess, or maybe that was just not as good as it could have been. But we all know about Bolt Gun. It's what it was called, like the Boomer Game of the Year, in the sense that it's like playing Doom on the Super Nintendo. And it's supposed to be amazing, plus really lore accurate. Like I saw a video by Bricky, and he was just waiting on while he was playing it, and all of a sudden you see your Ultramarines like start reading from the Codex Astartes, and it was like, wow, that is so accurate to the lore. So I cannot wait. It looks amazing. It looks like so much fun. So I'm gonna play this 100%. I love my first-person shooters, and I love my 40k. So this always been a match made in heaven. The only reason why I haven't played it earlier is that I waited a little bit when the game was released because I was thinking about getting it on PS4 or whatever. But then I got it on Switch and I can't wait to play it. Next, this is interesting. I need to remove the dust off my 3DS because I really want to play Persona Q. I played Persona Q2 years ago. It's one of my favorite RPGs of all time. It's, I would say, my favorite 3DS game of all time. But I haven't played the first one yet. It's supposed to be inferior to the sequel, but again, it's kind of the last Persona game I have to play out of my collection, of course. And I'm very curious because I love Q2 so much. So I like the combination between Persona and Etrian Odyssey. So mapping the levels and all of that with the Persona story and combat system. I'm sure it will be good. Maybe just not as good as Q2, but I mean, whether you're not as good as one of the greatest RPGs ever experienced, well, too bad. But I'm pretty sure I'm gonna love it. I mean, it features both casts from Persona 3 and 4, so it's gonna be interesting to play a game without Persona 5 attached to it, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna love it. Number 13 of the year. This is a game I cannot believe I haven't played yet, or at least not to completion. That's Nier Automata. Shocking, I know. I played about 10 hours of this ages ago. The same year it was released. I bought it, I played for a while, but then my PS4 at the time was in Italy. I was living in the UK, so I had to stop playing for the entirety of the year. And once I returned, I was doing something else. I didn't feel like restarting, so I kind of dropped it. But I was having a blast. It's a great game. So I put my foot down and say, no, I have to play Nier Automata. I need to finish this game. And ideally it would be a sort of like trigger to get into Nier Replicant, because I bought that remake and haven't touched yet. But that's certainly like a story for 2025 most likely. But it would be good to get back into Nier, because I loved the original game on the PS3. It's sad that I kind of dropped off it, but it was just coincidental. It's not something that I planned. And hopefully Automata will allow me to get back into Nier, which is something I always loved. Next, technically this would be the retro game of the year. If I don't think 3DS counts as retro yet, at least to me in my books. But the PS2 certainly does. And the idea is to complete this year's trilogy of Resident Evil and going back to Resident Evil Code Veronica X. This is going to be interesting because I remember playing Code Veronica back in the day at a friend's house who had the game for the Dreamcast. Now, I owned the game for the Dreamcast just for collection purposes, but I want to replay the game on my own. So, decided to buy the PS2 version. Maybe it was a mistake. I don't care. It was much easier and practical to me. And I cannot wait, to be honest, for a couple of reasons. From what I remember, Code Veronica is amazing. Arguably one of the best Resident Evil games. But especially I'm curious to see if I'll able to get back into an old school Resident Evil game, because if memory serves, Code Veronica is a tank control, or sort of. Maybe it was the in-between period. It's not as tanky as the PS1 games, but it's still very tanky when compared to the modern ones. So I'm very, very curious, and it will be interesting to have this sort of culture shock. Since for years I've always defended the tank controls. We want tank controls back. Let's see if I'll be able to play an old school Resident Evil game, and then we'll talk. Again, I'm sure I'm gonna like it, but there is this big question about the control systems. We'll see. And finally, number 15, we have a game that I should have played years ago, but it lost its chance, and that is Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on Nintendo Switch. Years ago, I kind of gave you the power to decide whether I should play Persona. This was 2 years ago, actually, in 2022. The idea was I should play either Persona 5 Royal or Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade was voted out, so Persona was the winner. I played that. Now it's time to play Xenoblade Chronicles 2 because I haven't touched the series since the first game on the 3DS, which it's almost unplayable to me now. So I'm curious to see how the series has moved on. Like, because the thing is, I loved the first Xenoblade Chronicles. So, of course, eventually I will play this game. It's just a matter of like, oh yeah, sure. I forgot I need to play Xenoblade Chronicles 2. This is why, to me, this sort of plans are so good and important. It's like, I need to remember that I have to play that specific game. So maybe next year I can have another big one for my collection that I haven't got the chance to play up until now. Ideally, I will love this game because why would I? And in all, like I hope that in 2025 I will be able to play Xenoblade 3 since I own that on Switch. But of course, I want to play 2 first. So that's the plan. These are the games that I am planning to play in 2024. As I said at the beginning, there is the incognito, the question about new releases. But I say most likely they're just 2. So maybe I can change 2 games. It's no big deal. However, there is a bigger issue. Let's start it over. While I was playing Greedfall, so the last game of 2023, I had the Mass Effect Legendary Edition always in the back of my mind. And once I finished Greedfall, I was out of games to play, in a sense that, I still have a couple of days in 2023. I would like to play something to pass the time while enjoying the holidays. So I decided to install Mass Effect, and I started from the beginning with Mass Effect 1. And what I've always feared happened. The reason why I haven't played the Legendary Edition immediately once I bought it back in March or something is that I knew that it would take over everything. Basically now, I've played Mass Effect 1, finished it the 31st of December, and as I finished that, I started playing Mass Effect 2, of course. And I'm still doing that. I'm currently playing that, and I have no intention of stopping. Just as I know, as soon as I finish Mass Effect 2, I'm going to move into 3. It's my favorite of the series, after all. And I am very tempted, after I'm finished with the trilogy, to move back into Mass Effect Andromeda, because I really enjoyed that game and I only played it once. So now I'm well deep into Mass Effect, and I have no intention of stop playing them, because I love those games too much. The problem is, this will take me at least a couple of months because, of course, as I said, I don't have that many occasions to play, and I don't spend too many hours of the day playing. So this is 100% going to impact my gaming plan that I just listed. What's going to happen? Most likely, I will play less games from my plan. Because I will give precedence to Mass Effect. It's, as I said, it's one of my favorite series and some of my favorite games of all time. So of course they'll have precedence. It's the first time in years that I have replayed these games. Because when the first time I played Mass Effect, I couldn't do anything for almost a year, basically. I replayed those games to nausea, basically. I couldn't put it down. Took a big break. Bought the Legendary Edition on PS4 because the original plan, I think, or it was just an idea, was to play this together with Leo so that we could commenting the games on our podcast. But then it was just an idea. It never really started that way. Like I didn't play the games immediately. But now that I start, as I say, I don't want to stop. So most likely we'll play less games out of the list I just told you about, say probably 10 or something like that, and we'll give priorities to some of them, and then the rest will move into 2025. That's more realistically what's going to happen and my gaming plan going forward. So that's it, with a lot of caveats. This was my gaming plan, or actually this is my gaming plan for 2024. Definitely let me know what you think. Do you have a gaming plan? Are you thinking about doing one, or you prefer going like randomly and tackle your collection in a different way? Definitely let me know, and thank you so much for watching, and like always guys, take care.